action army, and the trigger mechanism and the pins, the whole 9 yards, replicated it in CAD. And then I did a spectrum analysis on it, on what it takes to break it.
Hello, everybody. We are back and we are live. And wow, we already have a crowd in here tonight. As you guys all know, I'm Garrett from 11 Bang Bang. Over here to the right is my co-host, Snapper. And,
hey, guys.
I say co-host, but we're streaming on all 3 channels. Duke can't be here tonight. He's still at work. We have a special guest tonight, Shiloh from Arm for You. And I want you guys all to make him welcome. He specializes. He has a YouTube channel. It is linked in the title of this video, and he specializes in some kind of oddball Old West firearms and milsurp stuff that you don't see.
Good channel
often.
too. Very good channel.
So let me go through here. We'll get to talking to Shiloh here. Let me go through here and welcome everybody. We have Stephen M. Mans here. Diane Houston's in. Franklin Horst, Oregon Outback. Louisiana Gray. Gunsmith 4570. Turkey Creek 1823 is in. Let's see, I said Oregon Outback, Rod's Vintage Guns and Gab, Guards of Logs, and that's pretty much everybody's in. Everybody's just saying hi. So if you guys have any questions, put them out there in the comments, and we will try to get to them as we go. But right now, let's get down here to Shiloh. Now, tell me, what is Arm for You? It seems to be kind of like almost a business type thing.
Yeah.
What does it stand for?
So it stands for Arm Response Marksman, which is my business for firearms training. I can go down a rabbit hole with this. I don't know how far you want me to go with explaining everything, but
whatever you want to do, go ahead.
Yeah, we got time.
Okay. So I've carried a firearm professionally for over 20 years. I started off doing armor transport back in 1997. Did that for about 12 years, and then eventually, my girlfriend at the time was my wife now told me I need to stop that job and do something else. While I was working that, I started, actually I went through an EMT course in 2006, and I put myself through a fire academy in 2007, 2008. Tried to get in with fire, but at the time, that's when everybody was being let go from their jobs, and money was hard to get at the time. So I wound up moving to another location. My wife had finished school. She's a veterinarian, finished Davis. She was looking for a place to settle. She wound up settling out in outside of Edwards Air Force Base area. I wound up following her there, and took a tour on base, and I saw the NASA personnel out there, and I asked them how to get a job doing that. So I was still trying to get in with fire department. I tried with Cal Fire and stuff, and got a couple interviews, but I did get picked up out there at Edwards Air Force Base with NASA for their protective services, and wound up becoming a patrolman out there, and then eventually a dispatch instructor. We're security police out there up until the end of 21 is when I finally left. 2016 is when I started really looking into wanting to instruct. I've been collecting firearms for most of my life, and I wanted to give back a little bit because we see on the news, everything's twisted. So I thought if anybody's interested, we'll put them back on track, and got certified as an NRA instructor, and then eventually USCCA instructor. And so I like, if there's anybody interested, I like giving that information back and helping them out. So for myself, like I said, I've been collecting for a long time. I've been reloading for over 20 years. What got me into reloading was I got a lever action Marlin, and it was in 3840. And so and this was, probably like, I don't know, 25 years ago at least now. And I said, how much for a box of ammo? And they pulled that box of ammo off the shelf, and they go, here you go, Winchester box of ammo, $50 then. And I was like,
back then, that was a lot of money.
Yeah. And I mean, when I was raised, man, I had no money growing up. So as I was getting older, I had to gain to get the funds. So that was a lot of money for me back then. And it still is today too, for most people too. But yeah, that's what got me into reloading, and it just kind of took off from there. So if I get an old gun that is an odd gun, like I have I forget the year model off the top of my head, but it's a Star, the Mark II and 5650 rimfire. And I got that up and running, and with some help from some guys on YouTube as well. But I like doing that. I like seeing the challenge. Like, can I do it? Somebody did it at one point, and I enjoy that. So.
And you do very good at it. Hey, Snapper, I'm getting a little rumbling, rattling sound on your end. I know I muted you.
Hi, my fan. Hold on.
Back and it fixed it. I'll go ahead and mute you right quick.
Oh, like I did.
But anyway, so I found that very interesting. And I found your channel, of course, in my search for 5070 information. And you were right there loading up 5070s and shooting the trap doors that, I knew about, but I hadn't shot up to about 6 months ago. And then I got down this rabbit hole falling down your channel, and we got into, we had strange Winchester rounds and 5070s and flintlocks and even an Evans. Why don't you tell us about that Evans? Because a lot of people here like that gun. Few of us ever handled one.
Okay. Remind me about that, your 5070 trapdoor too, and I'll tell you a story about that. It's kind of interesting. I like oddball stuff. My dad was kind of a historian when I was growing up, so he got me interested in a lot of different things. And different firearms were what kind of caught my interest. So I got all the basic stuff. I got your 1903s, your basic war model stuff for World War II, World War I, getting into Civil War just a little bit. With that Evans, it was just something completely different. Like the whole design and style of it is just completely different. So I watched a video. Do you mind if I say other channels on here?
Go for it.
Okay. Forgotten Weapons. I looked it up. Like what is this? And he showed it, but he didn't really take it apart because it was somebody else's. I believe it was going to be auctioned. Mm-hmm. But he explained how it worked. I was just intrigued by the design and how it worked. Wound up getting one, and the spring was broken. It wasn't correct, and I had to fix that to make it run. So long story short, I had to buy a second one, to see how that spring was to actually fix it. Now I have two that are running. You can't buy the ammunition, of course, because it's proprietary to the Evans. You have to get 44 Evans, and it's a healed bullet because it's not a standard 44 bullet. It's actually a little bit smaller so that it expands to the rifling, because the diameter of the bore is actually large, but the inner part where the shoulder goes into the seat is smaller. So if you put a standard size 44 bullet into it, it won't fit. So it has to be a smaller size diameter bullet. I think it's 419. And long story short, I think they did that so that you can keep firing, because of the black powder. It holds, I forget, like 28 rounds or something crazy like that. Really neat design. Wood on the top on the original ones. Then they did wood on the top and the bottom with the tubular magazine, stamp pieces of metal to make the gun. There's some drawbacks to it, though. And in my video, I show that where I believe one cartridge didn't extract, and the next one, there's no way if it slides over to be able to get that one out, because the next one's trying to get in there at the same time. It's not fun.
Take it down from the top to the bottom. So do you have any experience with needle rifles? I know that Justin G and Kingdom of Vinland are out here talking about Drysis and Shaspo. Do you have any? I know you collect a lot of guns. I don't know if you're into the needle fire guns.
I think those are super cool. I've heard and done some research on them, and I guess the biggest problem was that they would enter the black powder and strike that primer to go off, and they would eventually corrode just because they're a weak point. I don't personally own one. I think the oldest one that I own German-wise is just after that's the 11 mil. So I have a real early single shot, and then I have I forget what model it is, the 71, that transition model. So it's the tubular magazine. You can shoot a single shot or load up the tube. Also an 11 mil. And that's what I'm working on right now too, is some black powder cartridges for that as well. But no, the needle guns, I don't have any experience yet.
Yeah. Let's get over here. We have a few more people in here. We have Yeshua T. We have let me see here. CBJW's in. Everything Black Powder's in. The Lone Dragoon is in. Justin G's in. The Kingdom of Vinland. Billy Bowie's in. And RJ's Guns and Stuff. And I don't see any other questions, really. Everybody's just kind of still saying hello. So back to that 5070. And I know you have a story about that. But my question is, I shoot Remington rolling blocks. I shoot trapdoors. There's always the debate. Should the military have gone with the Remington rolling block? I have my own opinion. Everybody knows it. You have way more rolling blocks than I do. Do you have the Springfield model?
No.
You don't? I don't either. But what's your opinion? What's your opinion? And it don't have to be a hard opinion, but
if they should have gone with the rolling block over the trapdoors.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you mentioned it about how the rolling blocks you have to extract the case by hand yourself, whereas the trapdoors you can pop in and it flings it out for you. So there is an advantage. Why they went to single shot though, I think or kept in single shot, I find kind of interesting because they have the Henrys and eventually the Winchesters. But what they were saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that people are thinking, well, the military just didn't want to eat up a lot of ammo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I think it was more supply train, trying to keep up with supply. No different than the food for the Army. If you can't feed your gun, you're kind of out of luck. So, and with that theory too, it went clear into World War I, even with the Enfields, how they had that slide that would cut across the magazine. For that same thought process, we shoot only one at a time until we get overrun, then we'll pop that aside and then use our magazine.
Yes.
So to answer your question, for the military, I think the trapdoors probably work a little bit better just for flinging that cartridge out with the right ammo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's the kicker. The other thing is, if you put that same ammo in a rolling block, there's actually records of it doing the exact same thing. So, but I can't remember his name right off the top of my head. I'm going to do a video on it pretty soon, but I found a letter from a senator to, I believe it was Dreyer in 1877, and they were discussing the adoption of a newer rifle or a new design, and they both came to the conclusion of we can have a fancy rifle or we can keep this rifle and put shoes on the soldiers' feet this winter. When you look at it like that, it's like that's a whole new ball game. That in my opinion, people don't understand. There was a time when, and I'm not getting into politics here, but there was a time when the government didn't just print the money they needed.
Yep.
They had to actually work on a budget, and that's basically when everybody says the soldiers were at the bottom of the government list. It's like everything in the 1870s was at the bottom of their list. They couldn't afford anything.
Yeah, like look through the Indian Wars. So many accounts of, they were broke as a joke. Didn't even want to shoot that much for practice just because buying the ammo was expensive.
3 rounds, I think, a month per soldier.
Yeah,
it was it was very little. It was like one practice session a year of only like 5 or 6 rounds or something like that.
But I like how Ian on Forgotten Weapons puts it best. The government at this time has one saying: how can we do it efficiently, effectively, and for no money? That's always the question. But anyway, you were going to talk about that 5070. You told me to remind you about it.
Yeah, so I've got a story about everything, so I apologize. If I get to a point where I'm going down a rabbit hole to anything, just be like, time out, guys.
That's what we're here for. We're here to listen to your stories. Go ahead.
So the way I ran across my 5070 was I got a 73 rolling block, or 74, I'm sorry, rolling block. Let me back up here. It's been a long day. 74 trapdoor. There we go. Springfield. In 4570, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
73 but made in 74, I'm assuming you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
So the early one. And my dad was telling me back, because he was doing a lot of research. They had 5070s prior to that. And this is before I had a computer and all this stuff. I was still just tinkering in the garage with reloading and such. But I went to a gun shop. There was a guy trying to sell a gun behind the counter, or to the people behind the counter. And I'm not the kind of person to like, hey, if it doesn't work out, let's go meet in the parking lot, because I think that's not very cool. But it didn't work out with him. I happened to leave at the same time, and we met. And I was like, so I just asked him, so what were you trying to sell? I'm just curious. And he showed me. And it was a Springfield. And I asked him how much he was asking for it. And they were telling him, I think, 200 at the time. So I said, well, do you mind if I think about it? I'll give you a holler. And he gave me his number. So I want to call him later. I said, yeah, I'm kind of interested. He goes, well, how about I just meet you in a parking lot and go from there? I said, okay. So I met him in the parking lot. I told him, I said, look, I don't have any money right now. I'd like to do more research on it. He goes, here, take the rifle. Just let me know when you're ready. I'm like, dude, you don't even know me. And I was trying to wait for where he lives. And he goes, no, you have a trustworthy face. All right. So I took it home and I did some research, and I noticed the muzzle was a little bit bigger. And I was like, I took that 4570 case, and I dropped it down inside the muzzle, and it went all the way to the base, the micro base. I'm like, it's a 50 cal. It's a 5070. I told my dad, I was all excited. I told the guy, I said, I'll buy it. I paid $450 for that. So for me, it was kind of exciting. I didn't pay much for it. Got a decent gun. I tried looking for others, and they've gone up in price. And so that's how I want to get there. It's pretty decent. The stock is a little work. I mean, you saw it in the video, I'm sure, but the gun itself is pretty good. And like you said, they hit hard.
So was that the Model 66 or the Model 68 or what was it? The 3-band or the 2-band?
I'd have to look back. It's one of those things that I played with, and then I put it away, and I moved on to something else. I can look for you if you want, or I can just pull up my video too and see. But
yeah, that's fine. It's no big deal. I couldn't remember off the top of my head. There's some videos we've been talking about here lately on some bigger channels that seem to be very confused about trapdoor models, but I'm not going to go into that now. One in particular. But there's a few questions over here. I'm going to get over here too. Deja Vu's in. Mill Creek Range is in. Hi, Benji. I think that's Benji on there anyway. He said, hey, he's in Nova Scotia this week. Wow. Deja Vu, Kodak Tackman's in, said, I'm late, but I'm here. And if all you guys that are looking for Duke, he had to work tonight, but we are still streaming to his channel, so he gets some views. Yashua T said, I have my grandpa's 3040 Krag. It's a great rifle. Rod's Vintage Guns and Grabs said, I'm a big 303 British fan. Have a really clean number 4 Mark I full issue video of it on my channel. Bowie said the only problem with the rolling block that the barrel gets really hot, super hot if you keep shooting it as long, and sometimes at the same type of ammunition that the trapdoor was using cooked. Both of them get hot. I can tell you that.
Anything that shoots black powder gets extremely fast. Or hot, excuse me. That single action I was shooting the other day, 50 rounds and you could barely hold on to the gun. I mean, it was crazy hot, crazy fast.
And it's amazing how quicker they get hot in the summer than the winter.
Yeah.
Chris Klein said, hello, sorry I'm late. Justin G said, I think the best contemporary rifle is the Swiss. The Vetterli rifle is way more advanced than the trapdoor. I'll get into that here in just a little bit, but I don't want to go down a rabbit hole either, because if you guys get me talking too much about trapdoors, we'll never get out of here.
The Swiss rolling blocks though too.
Yeah. The Vetterli may be more advanced.
It had a magazine.
It still has some major troubles if you just pick up one of those early Swiss Vetterlis and just go to shoot it. Watch out the stock don't come apart in your face. Yeah. There's a few issues. My thing on that is that Vetterli came and went while we had the trapdoor, and we got something even better and made it through without any issue. But that's just my thoughts on it. So anyway, back to, did you find out what your gun was?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I didn't.
No,
know
you didn't
that.
have to. It's no
I
big
did
deal.
mention it.
I got an idea. Everybody who's curious, go to his channel and check it out. There you go. Go subscribe while you're over there.
There's
So
one
you
thing
had
I'd like to add
ahead.
to that though, because you've been reloading for that too, I believe. And I think what I wound up doing was I sized that down to I think it was a 510 bullet, and it comes out at 515. And I believe I was hitting at 100 yards. I did that a while back and tried it and then put it away. But I think I would leave it alone. I wouldn't size it down. I would just leave it out of the mold at the 515. So give it
5,000 clearance is pretty decent. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
and it gives you a little extra bite in those the rifling. And so I was going to try to do it again and just see if I get any better results. But I'm also not trying to get
Have you guys tried hollow base bullets, or are you just worried about taking away the weight for the hard hitting?
On what?
In the 50-70.
50-70 doesn't shoot a hollow base bullet, and
No, I mean, but if you use the hollow base, do you think it would work?
It might. Here's the thing: 45-70, the 405 bullet did use a hollow base. 50-70 didn't use a hollow base because in experiments they had a hard time getting it to expand out of the casing right off the bat. The casing was giving them issues. They kind of worked that out with the 405, but then they found that the hollow base was, I think it was the hollow base that was causing it to tumble and not quite enough weight. So they go up to the 500 grain bullet in 1879. Well, basically 1882. They use it in 1879. They adopt it full cross in 1882. And they find they can get 200 more yards of true accuracy out of that non-hollow base bullet.
That makes sense.
Go ahead. I didn't want to. Go ahead, Shiloh. You got any thoughts on
that? Sorry.
No. To be honest with you, I like how you can rattle this stuff right on top of your head, because I've done a bunch of research on stuff to see what I was going to do for the moment. And even for me, I'll reflect back on my videos to be like, what did I do?
I'm the same way.
You're catching me right in the middle of one of the biggest studies I've ever done in my life. So literally I'm focusing on nothing else. If you ask me a Colt question right now, I couldn't tell you what year the Patterson probably even came out anymore. I can't remember Colt at the moment. So that's just
information.
Yeah. So
we have to forget things to learn new things.
Yeah, you had a question you were discussing with Snapper before we went live, though. And it had to do with basically it had to do with
relining
and preserving, and when does a gun go from a shooter to killing collector value, and just go ahead on that conversation. You guys were going good before I interrupted you and we went live.
No worries.
So I was watching some of Snapper's videos, and he's got some really cool stuff like how to nickel plate and all, and looking into reworking firearms and such. And I like that. I like that kind of stuff because doing a Glock or doing a modern gun, it's really just what do they call it? It's just pushing pins, really. And then you put a new part in and you push your pins back. So if you're going to do guns, it's reshaping and so forth. So for myself, I was taught by a guy up way up Northern California, who worked with, I don't even know if he's still around. I hope he is. His name's Jay Strite with Raven's Roost. And he worked with Walt Kurse for the Kurse converters. Mm-hmm. And he was teaching me how to refinish firearms. So he said, he had me do my own. And he was like, you don't take something that is acceptable, like an old Smith or old Colt or something, and think you blew it and think you're going to get value out of it.
No, it kills the value. It'll murder the value overnight.
It could, unless
it could, depending on what it is and who does it sometimes. Yeah.
So if you got a low value gun and you put some work into it, it picks it up by 10%, you didn't lose anything. But if you have a family heirloom that looks like junk and you got your grandpa's picture with it, with that family heirloom, you leave it alone. And I was like, okay, so I learned a lot from him through that. So the question comes up that how far do you go if you're going to do something like that? And I got a lever action that's in 4065. I loaded up some 4065. And I took it out and I fired it at 50 yards. And I'm like, where's it hitting? This is bad. So I put a piece of wood behind it, fired into that piece of wood just to see, like, where am I off and how to zero this thing properly. And I started noticing keyholes. And I did clean the gun thoroughly before I fired it. And when I started looking down the barrel, I thought the barrel was just dirty until I cleaned it, fired it, cleaned it again, looked again. I'm like, okay, it's not. The rifle is pretty bad. So even at the muzzle, it's pretty bad. So question comes up: do you leave it alone as a wall hanger?
Well,
or do you reline it and then have a shooter?
so there's kind of two ways to look at it. Is there a way to repair the original rifling? Is there any way to do that? And now, if it is just at the muzzle, like the crowning being messed up, or the last few, I say inch and a half of the muzzle itself, into the rifling is bad, and what's causing your problem, you could counterbore it from the front. And the military did this for a long time too. If there's damage there, you stick it in a lathe, or you could use a reamer, I guess, and you would just remove that rifling, make it all new, and put a brand new crown on the top of the barrel. And if that fixes it, you're good. And that doesn't kill the value too much. It doesn't hurt it too much because you're still shooting through the original rifling. But I would also have to look at the gun itself. If it had like a beautiful finish on it, and I mean, it was just like gorgeous gun with a crappy, bore, I would say leave it, because somebody would probably want it as a beautiful, perfect wall hanger that isn't going to shoot it anyway.
Right.
If it is a gun that, and there's also another thought on this. If it's your gun and it's your gun and you don't care, you want it to be your gun, you're never going to get rid of it, you want to shoot it, by all means, fix it. By all means, fix it. But I would go through the steps of, is it repairable without adding new parts? And then, is it repairable with as least work possible? And then, is it repairable by just relining it? And relining a gun, depending on what it is and the people who look at it, some people, they don't see it as a big deal because you'll run across them all the time. Now, there's some guns that had special rifling, really special rifling, like the Colts had the, progressive rifling, which starts off straight and then speeds up. That kind of stuff, you can't really replicate that without ruining the rifling. By putting modern rifling in it, it no longer has that. It's losing a part of itself. Now, I've been looking for companies that can make those kind of barrels, because it'd be really cool if you could find a replacement rifling that is the exact perfect rifling. Because there's ways to change out the rifling, like lining the barrel, and make it invisible. Like you could never tell it was even done by just TIG welding the ends and then refinishing it and sanding it smooth. It's so, I would say it's like 1 to 10 on a million different things you want to look at on the finish versus the gun versus the value of the gun versus the value of the gun if it was refinished, all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of people who will still not see your point of view, because I do not like old guns that have been sent to these refinishing companies, even like Turnbull, that they'll make a gun look brand spanking new again, even though they did it right and they did it good.
Yeah,
they throw away so many parts. I've seen 3 guns go through their company where the only part that came back that was on that gun when it left was the frame. Nothing else was there anymore. The barrel's different. Everything's different. They remark it and say the gun's perfectly all matching serial numbers, and it's not. Everything's brand new except for the frame. So then I'm like, well, why don't you just go buy a 3rd or 4th gen Colt then and just have it marked up to look like an old gun?
Yeah.
It really depends, because you'll always find a person who will want it for what it is, not what it could be or what it should be, but what it is. And it's always on to, it's your gun. What do you want to do with it? If you want to shoot it and you want to be able to hit things out at a distance with it, by all means, do whatever it takes to do that. But try not to bubba it too much.
Yeah,
just in case the next guy.
It's hard to find people that can do the work that you're looking for. I find too, a lot of the older guys are able to do it. People know they're good at it, and they are. I've checked in a few companies, and one guy I spoke with, he's like, "Yeah, my wife is in bad shape right now. I got to take care of her, so I'm way behind. Give me an email or something about 6 or 8 months." And I was like, "Whew, okay."
Yeah.
But he's also like 80 something, and he's been doing it for I don't know however many years, and they know how to do it right, like with what you're looking for. And they're also, at least I found with him, he was honest with me. He's like, well, I have a 3840 the same way, a different rifle. And he goes, well, we can line that one for you too. But the problem is that it's going to be in the pistol rifling, not the rifling. So there's another. Do I just leave it alone, forget about it, find another rifle?
Yep.
And for the cost sometimes too, if you're just going to shoot them, like I'm sure you're aware of Snapper that you get something old and it's just to know that it shoots is fine. You don't have to shoot a lot, just enough to know it works.
I don't care if it's accurate at 100 yards. I just care that it goes bang, throw some smoke, and I can hit something at a fairly decent close range.
Mm-hmm. And then something to beat up. Let's get a Rossi or something that looks really good, just like the originals. And
exactly.
Just play and have some fun. But those old guns, for sure, they have so many different calibers that are out there. It's wild. Like, 44s and 45s and all that stuff that we're used to seeing. But I think you guys were talking about before too, like the 5100s you guys were talking about for the rolling blocks, some of that stuff, or the Sharps.
The 5090s, 5110s, and the Buffalo rounds.
Oddballs.
That is a crazy round.
Yeah. Oh, that ain't nothing. You go look up the Sharps 5140. That one will. But I know Steven Mountain Man's out there. He's gonna say a 72 150 Waka, whatever he calls it. He's got a stomping round too. That's basically designed out of a brass 12 gauge shell. But he's
not gonna have a shoulder after he shoots it once though. But it's gonna be one heck of a round.
What's funny is all those are the big Buffalo rounds, and most of the big ones, like the 5140, came out around in the mid 1880s and 1890s after they were all
the Buffalo were all gone. Yeah. Then they became elephant guns.
That's basically what they were. That's basically what
you guys were talking about those Sharps and stuff, or at least on one of your videos I was watching, and the different calibers and stuff, and well, between everybody's watching, the three of us, on my birthday in June, we were up in Montana, and we were talking, I told you guys briefly that we went to go see Custer's Battlefield and stuff. Well,
I want to go there so bad.
Of all the stories, I'll tell this real quick. We'll get back to that. I asked my wife, it's like, you want to see any saddle replacements and stuff? She was looking up. She goes, well, hey, guess what? There's Shiloh Sharps just down the road, 10 minutes from where we were staying.
There you go.
On your birthday,
on your birthday.
Monday was my birthday. I went down there and I walked in. She goes, can I help you? And I was just like, I don't know where to even start.
Yeah.
So, long story short, I got to see all their stuff. Really, really cool. The lady behind the counter was super. I wish I could remember her name, to be honest with you, but she was really, really nice. Put up with me for however long I was there, and I wound up putting a down payment on a. They call it the Hartford model, which is very much like the Quigley model. That's where they got the idea from. With 45 110, because I was like, if you're gonna do it, let's just do it for the distance. You can shoot close, but shoot a distance too. And I know, like in the movie Quigley Down Under, he was saying it was an experimental cartridge for the time. But I just wanted to see how far you can reach and just have a little bit of fun with it. So that I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'll let you guys know.
What did you say what was it chambered in? Did you say? I was reading the comments.
45 110, right?
45 110. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's a Hartford model. So the Quigley model is the one with the buttstock that's flat, the military style, and the Hartford round. So
has the crescent moon?
No, it's shotgun style.
The shotgun's back. Okay.
Yeah, they had the shorter barrel. Man, that thing, you put it up to your shoulder and you swing it. It swung real nice. But I was like, with the 110 though, let's kick it out to 34 inches so you can get that extra barrel length to burn that powder.
Burn all that powder. It's one of the things that gripes me because I've been studying these cartridges for a long time. I was studying the Sharp stuff, even though I don't technically have one right now. I was studying the Sharp stuff long before trapdoors, and it never failed. You'd go on a forum and somebody would be like, I have a 4570. What do you guys think about boring it out to 40, 45, 90, 45, 110? And it'd be like just lines of people calling the guy stupid. Why would you ever want to do that? You can shoot smokeless and get just as much power out of a 45-7 as a 45-110. And I'd type in there, I'd be like, guys, that's not the question he asked. And finally I contacted one of those guys and he told me, he's like, yeah, I have 7 45-70s. I want one 45.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, why not?
It's kind of you just talking about just brought that up. It gripes me because that big bore rifle cartridge is one of the most, I want to say, gate kept eras of firearms history. The big true buffalo rifle rounds once you get past 45 and 50-70, everybody else that has them is constantly telling people don't do it, even though they have them and they enjoy them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's something I've read about. And that's a little rant of mine. You talking about it kind of brought it up.
Well, when there's very few out there, they go for a lot more money than they do when there's a bunch.
Iron Wings 3187 said, "How we doing, Garrett? Hope I was up." Yes, you did help me out. Thank you very much. Mukwa, Stephen.
Yep, that's what it was.
72-150 Mukwa. Gray Pilgrims out there. Hey, I got your
email,
Gray, and I had not seen those channels. I appreciate that. You sending me that. Should we talk about what we were talking about last night, Snapper? We got a little time here.
What were we talking about last night?
Not the big thing, but we're talking about at some point finding a week where we can get together with everybody that we know.
Oh,
and
yes.
One day,
yes.
Every single day for 6 days, all the people that make videos that are watching us. And if you make videos, we want to take one day and call it, I can't remember what we were going to call it. Basically, take a week and every single day make a short video. Just tell people to go check out another history channel that is a smaller, 50,000 less subs history channel or firearms channel. We need to work on that. But I think we were going to call it Spread the Word, the week of Spread the Word.
I think that's what it was, because we're looking at like the biggest problem right now on YouTube is the fact that any person who does what we're doing right here, they do not promote your videos at all. I mean, even Stephen M. Mann, talking to him, he has hardly getting any support through YouTube. Most of his videos don't even show up in my feed when he posts them. And I was like, what would be a good way to bypass the shadow banning? The best way I could think of is, what if we all made videos on each other and just threw it out there?
And we want to kind of do it all like in the same week. So if we get 50 people putting out 6 videos in 1 week, 6 little shorts. And I don't know how it would work out for everybody. Some people don't make shorts. Some people don't like them. You just make regular videos. But I feel like we could really get around the algorithm.
Get the word out. I think so too. I really believe that's a good way to get around the algorithm.
Yeah. You seem to have been getting some growth going on down there, Shiloh. You kind of really going here lately, it looks like, a little bit.
If you guys have helped or whoever's found that interesting, thank you guys. I really didn't do it to expect anything. I kind of did it just to see, like, I've been seeing other people do videos and stuff, and I was looking for certain things. I couldn't find them. So, or if they were out there, they were, I don't want to say old, but you can look back and see 4, 5, 10 years ago. But there's not too many for the stuff that we're interested in.
Absolutely.
And so I just thought, well, I've got a couple things, and if I can make it work, this is what I did to do it. If it can help somebody, great. If it doesn't, I'm sure you guys have seen it too, that you get hammered on for what you said.
Yep.
Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
There's some pretty interesting, fun comment battles that we've been in over the years.
Yeah. But honestly, the stuff you're covering, there's only 2 channels I know that cover it. One of them's you, and the other one's Dr. Darrell Shepherd.
Yeah.
And people think that 11 Bang Bang and Snapper do obsolete arms. You ain't seen nothing yet till you go check out Arm for You. There's some obsolete guns on there now.
Yeah.
And
he's got some really cool stuff. I learned from him too when I was learning how to do the rimfire stuff.
Oh yeah, from Dr. Darrell Shepherd. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm glad you pointed him out to me, Garrett. I actually like his channel, especially the little snapper in the beginning in one of his early videos. The little snapper in the beginning. I was like, yes, this guy has got my heart.
There was a time when I'd be like, well, that's a cool gun, but it's in, 5650 rimfire. No way we'll ever be able to shoot it. And then there's channels like you and him that are like, we can put conversion blocks in these old guns. We can make this ammo. And the first time I saw that, that was like, whole new world of firearms just opened up. We can make rimfire ammo that I never even thought about making it like that. And we've made a lot of 32 rimfire, 38 rimfire, But we're working right now on. I actually have some stuff right here. Working right now, and I know I've said this a couple times because it's always a work in progress. But I have some actual 28 gauge brass.
Yeah.
These are going to become 58 rimfire. Oop, there we go.
Is that hard to find right now, that 28 gauge? I know there's a lot of brass that's getting tough.
No.
Okay.
Actually, I spent 3 months hunting 50-70. 50-70 is the hardest brass you can look for right now. Everything black powder is making out of 50-90 because 50-90 is easier to find.
Down, yeah.
And we bought this Type 1 Allen conversion 58 rimfire. And I was like, well, we need 28 gauge brass. And Caleb was like, well, we'll never find that. Start looking. This was from, it's MagTech, but it was from, I can't remember where it was from. But basically, $20, $25 a box is like $1 a shot for this brass. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Brass is not that cheap anywhere right now.
Is that large rifle primer?
What's that?
Is that a large rifle primer too?
Yeah.
Or is it a shotgun?
It's I believe these are actually large rifle, empty, unprimed. Large pistol primers.
Large pistol. Okay.
I mean, you could use large rifle primers too, honestly, but yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, brass shotgun shells. I used to think $1 a piece for empty brass was expensive. Not anymore. I think
and the world changed.
50-70, I paid $8 a shot for empty brass. 43 Spanish, it was $7 a shot, and I thought that was expensive, but at least it was available. Rod's Vintage Gun said, MagTech brass here is $80 for 20 casings. Well, you're getting in the wrong place. Look it up on the internet. I think altogether with tax, it was like $35 a box of 25. So you might look it up. I don't think we got a smoking deal, but we grabbed 2 boxes, and that'll take us a long way on a single shot. 50 rounds take us a long way.
I think there are some people on the net, though, that are kind of sketchy, and they look real cheap, and you're like, how are you selling like 1,000 primers for, like back in the old days, $40, and you go to Midway and they don't have it. So it's
I cannot remember exactly where this is, but it is a really well-known place that sells just shotgun shells and brass shotgun shells. And it's like, and they had everything. I don't know if they still have it in stock, but it was not expensive. It has a picture of a duck on their logo, and it's like #1 place for shotgun shooters or something like that. And it was a really good deal. So yeah, easier to find than 50-70, that's for sure. Oh, and Gray Pilgrim said he has 50-70 brass, about 30 pieces. Yeah, it's like 30 pieces of silver, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't ever want to part with it.
You know, it's sad when you see it all the time, and then you're like, one day. And then when that day comes that you really want it and it's not there. I've used some of that 50-70 brass to trim down for the Swiss rolling block that's in 40, I think it's 42. And looking back now, if you can't find 57, luckily I have both, so I can do 50-70 for my 50-70 stuff and then the 42 for that. But it makes you kind of cringe sometimes. Where you're like, ooh, maybe I should have done that.
Yeah. So when you bought your 50-70 brass, was it terribly expensive?
You know,
or did you get
I've
in
had
time?
that for some time now. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to remember when the last time I bought a batch. It wasn't too long ago, but
I know Starline used to make it, so it would have been cheap, 10 years ago or less.
I didn't get it all too long ago. I think it was either right before or just during COVID or something like that. It was.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was gone until you guys had mentioned it. I'm like, really? And I looked it up. Oh, I guess so. All right.
Whole different world 2 years ago, and as far as ammunition goes, and it's never going back down. So
no,
that's why I shoot a lot.
Honest to God, even the antique market changed incredibly in the last 2 years. I mean, before COVID, there's so many guns that you could get in certain price groups that you can't even touch now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that was it. Gunsmith 4570 Ballistic Products. That's what they were. The world's #1 shotgun sellers or whatever. Ballistic Products. That's the name of it.
So the reason why I was asking is because I have an Army Sport Sharps, and it's in 54. But somebody had talked about using, and I forget the gauge off the top of my head, shotgun shell, and loading that up instead of using the paper cartridges, because that sleeve that's inside is stuck and I can't get it out. I thought about trimming it out, but I was like, after seeing that, I was like, well, I could just use those cartridges. It butts right up against the plate, and it's all sealed up anyway. And I have others that are I think I have a couple of Pedersolis and stuff. I have 1, 2, 3, at least 3 of those. So that one can, if we can put those shotgun shells in there and make it work, I thought it'd be a lot easier and try it out.
Yep.
That's a good I need to get. I need a Sharp.
Seal the breech better, probably. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I would love to have Sharp's carbine and chambered in 50-70. It's hard to find them now. Everybody's got them in 45-70. I know they did exist, and I've had some people point them out to me. One of these days when I have the money, I'm going to get one of those.
Well, get one of 54, and then you can put a liner in there for 50. And
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
You got off into the, I don't know if you buy military heritage flintlocks, but you got off into the flintlocks too. I don't know if you've been in them for a long time, but was that like Veteran Arms, Military Heritage? Where do you get your flintlocks?
I like Military Heritage. I'm trying to remember which. There was a company. I don't want to talk bad about anybody, but there's one that's out there. Do you guys want to know the company or no?
Go ahead. That's what we're here for.
Yes, that's what we're here for. Keep other people from making the same mistakes as we.
I don't want to bash them, but I believe it was called Middlesex. I think that's
Middlesex Village.
And simple stuff, bayonet and a couple of slings. That is something really simple. And you go to the site, you'll find that you can buy them, you purchase them, and they didn't have them in stock. And then so later I was like, hey, I was just curious what the status was, and I didn't hear anything, so I called. And then it just sounded like as if like if I was doing it here, which I don't have a problem with that. People are working out of their home and stuff, but it was very kind of unprofessional in my opinion. And then I contacted him again. He goes, "Well, everything's handmade," and I'm like, "Well, I understand the bayonets are because they're from India, but if you don't have it, you don't sell it." Like
exactly, yeah.
But he was saying there was a list that he had and stuff, and so I wound up having to contact the credit card company and say no, because if you don't have it, you don't have it. And I'm patient with people that are making stuff, but how hard is it to cut a strip of leather? It's and put a simple buckle on it, do a couple stitches. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
And I get people
don't advertise and sell it if you don't have it. It's the most frustrating thing in the world.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
or at least let people know that this is a custom item.
And it say there could be a serious lead time. I mean, these things are not hard to do. It almost feels like they kind of trick you in a way to buying it because then they know that, most people, once they buy it, they won't back out. They'll just say, screw it, I'll wait.
This hits near and dear to my heart because we have a schedule. Like we have to turn out a video a week. And it's like, I've got my videos planned out for 2 months. I have to have it. And you're the only people that supposedly got it, or you already took the money. Yeah. And then you call me and tell me it'll be 2 months. And I'm like, but I have everything else ready to go. And I need that one thing. I get it. I guess it's business, but it is very, very frustrating.
But even for me, like if all it takes is cut a couple strips of leather and like, hey, we got your slings, at least you can make some money for yourself that no one's going to complain about. And the rest of it, you're like, it's not on me. It's in India. I apologize for that part. But even then, just don't advertise that you have it if you don't have it. Yeah. So to answer your question, I like the Military Heritage. I've dealt with them for, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at least. You guys are going crazy with it, and I'm like, I'm kind of jealous because I'm like, it's me by myself, and you got your brothers, and I'm like,
that's all of us. Trust me, I feel the same way. I feel the exact same way. It's like, man, I wish I had 3 brothers right now.
Right? And even doing the videos, it's so much. It's tough to do by yourself because it's trying to come up with something that you think is going to be interesting, and you take the time to put it out there, and you're like, okay, cool, I got that one done. And there's still a lot of stuff around, but the time to do it is So
You know what the strangest thing about YouTube is? I'll make a video on something that I think is going to be like, oh, this is going to be great, and it flops. And I'll make a video that it's like, oh, I'll just get it out of the way just because, and it's not a big deal, it's not a big thing, and then it blows up.
yeah.
Yeah.
So real quick too, and I'm sorry, Garrett, for cutting you off.
Good.
So I did the one. Shoot, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It's that single shot. The single shot black powder gun that I have from it's Civil War era, but it's not Civil War. It's modern made. Where it falls forward and you have your brass cartridge and you just put the powder in it. You put your shot.
Was it your Gallagher or your Smith or Gallagher? Yeah, you have the Gallagher. Yeah,
and it's got the hole in the back, so it's you just put the powder, you put the bullet on top, you drop it in there, and you use your primer and then shoot it. There's nothing really whiz bang about that whatsoever, and they yanked that. It took off it took off, and I was like, "Whoa, that's kind of cool."
They did. They took it clear down.
They pulled.
They said manufacturing ammunition. So if I disappear, you'll know why. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So
when was this?
This was not too long back. I'd have to look, to be honest with you, to give you the date.
Well, was it around last November?
I don't remember because I'm not real regular with my videos.
Yeah,
but I put on UG YouTube also for the Utah Gun Exchange. It's on there too. So I was like, I redid it. I was just like, hey, I'm not trying to clickbait you guys. If you want to see the whole thing, it's there. But here's the rest of me shooting it at least.
That's ridiculous. We had it was last June. It was 4th of July last year, but I didn't get the video released till August. I had Noah, who's my brother, shooting a flintlock.
That's funny. That's so fun. I know it's bad. It's horrible they did this, but it's funny.
He was 18, and they gave us a strike for a minor in a dangerous situation.
Oh no!
I wrote him back.
Yeah.
He's over 18. He's not a minor. It's not a dangerous situation. I can tell you gun channels right now, but I'm not going to, where they have little kids that shoot guns all day in safe situations. This was safe. He's not even a minor. No answer. That strike, it's a warning the first time. It's still a strike because you technically get 4, you get a warning and then 3. Warning never goes away. That thing is still on there every time I open up every time you open the dashboard, that warning's right there, and it will never go away. And you can email and email and email till you're blue in the face, and they will not answer you.
Well, my first warning strike I ever got was because I changed my name on my YouTube channel. It used to be The Wild Snapper. I changed it to Snapper, and it says I'm selling firearms. Or, like Snapper's Antique Firearms. It says I'm selling firearms. I'm like, I'm not selling firearms. I buy firearms, but I never sell them.
Yeah. Where's the dollar amount there? Okay.
Yeah.
You're not even getting paid to do it. So
it seems like it got better this year, but I don't know. We've had a couple of strike scares on different things, and it's like, it's not like, not that you shouldn't be able to, but we're not going out there and blasting off 500 rounds through an AR-15 every video, It's like, this is minimum what we're doing. And it's like, you should be able to do whatever you want anyway, but it's like, we're like at the very bottom. Why are you guys picking on us?
Yeah.
Probably because we're not making you enough money would be my guess.
Of all the fearful things to be concerned about too,
a Gallagher carbine.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Some of that stuff though, like I have on my channel, like the 351 WSL, that one I like old firearms anyway from the 20s, or I have my CNR license and stuff, so from on back, and even the antiques and such. But you can see, like I'm sure both you guys are aware that the 1700s and the flintlocks up to the 1840s and to the 1870s, that's not a whole long time period, but they went from the flintlocks to the cap and ball, and then from the cap and ball they were like, well, we have cartridges too, 2 cartridges, and then black powder all the way through to like, well, do we really still want black powder, to lean into like white powder, but it's still kind of to black powder pressures. And so when it comes to people wondering like, well, how can I do this and be safe? I don't understand what the problem is if you're trying to do it correctly. And we're showing like, hey, this is how you can do it. I'm proving to you with this old rifle. My rifle, for me, it works for me. You're a different story because I don't know your rifle. I don't know if it was done right or messed up or what, but for my stuff, it's fine. So The 350.
I don't know if anybody poured H110 in your GoX can or not.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good point to make too, is the fact that you think that the education of saying, hey, this is how you properly do it safely would be promoted. But the idea of saying we don't show it at all, and that, I don't know about you guys, but I have personally seen people go to a range with a brand new black powder gun, like a muzzle loader, and have smokeless powder with them, not even buy black powder. I have seen that before. And they didn't even know you had to put black powder in it. Like, straight up didn't even know this. I mean, they're pretty dumb, but you think that the education and the process, you would, A, one, want to learn it yourself before you jump into that stuff. But B, I think it would be promoted on the fact that, hey, this is how you load this cartridge safely. You think YouTube would say, that's a good thing, instead of just letting somebody figure it out on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Snapper, haven't you ever tried to put smokeless in a black powder firearm?
I would do it with a replica, but not an original, no. I would have tried when I was younger. I'm not going to lie. I would have probably tried, but I never have done it personally.
I won't boldface lie to you. When I had muzzleloaders and cap and ball revolvers when I was 8, 9 years old and ran out of powder, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be just pretty good to pull the shotgun shell, pull the BBs out, drop the shotgun shell powder down the... Now, I'll tell you something. It works for about 4 rounds.
Yeah, I bet.
And then Snapper... 25 years later, Snapper has my Remington cap and ball revolver.
Is that the gun you shot that out of?
The one that came to you without a cylinder? Yeah, that was about 25 years ago. When
that gun is pretty much done. I just got a nickel plate.
Don't do it ever.
Don't do it.
Dangerous. But I also have to explain to people I didn't have TV, I didn't have internet, I didn't have access to the books. I had relatives who had told me not to do it, but dumb old uncle up there shooting, he don't know what he's talking about.
What does he know? Yeah.
He never explained to me that a piece of the cylinder might come dislodged off, It works in my shotgun. Why doesn't it work in this?
I have really wanted to go out and buy an inline. Just
to blow it up.
Yeah. Or just to say, hey, how much can this take? Like, realistically, how much could this thing take before it becomes a pipe bomb?
I think Iraq veteran 8888 did that.
Mm-hmm.
I think
he did it on something. I forgot what it was, but
and he tried different ones and overcharged it and did all kinds of stuff for science.
Mm-hmm.
For science.
Yeah. And Rod's Vintage Guns brings up a point. He said, I've loaded smokeless in my model 7184 Mausers, never had an issue, kept the loads respectable and worked them up. That's if you know your pressures and you understand the PSI your gun can handle. That's good. Don't
Elmer Kiff did it with
revolver and load it to the top like you would with black powder with a shotgun powder. That's not good.
Let's be honest. You can make it possible. It is possible to do if you really stick perfectly with the math. Using math to figure this out. It's not smart, but it's possible. Not safe, but it's possible.
And what he's talking about is guns of the era, like
in between, like early, right in that area.
That Winchester behind you has shot a number of cowboy loads smokeless through it, and it won't.
I know.
I don't know that it's rated for it, but it's not gonna hurt that gun in my opinion. And I've done it, and it's still there.
I've gauged that thing. It's actually in really good shape. Like that barrel, it's in good shape actually.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
But, you got any thoughts, Shiloh, on smokeless and antique firearms that not muzzle loaders? Because that's what people don't understand. When you talk about muzzle loaders and you try to fill it to the capacity that you would with black powder, that's when you get in trouble. But buying a Black Hills ammunition and shooting it in, you can do it in a trapdoor. A lot of people don't understand that. It will handle most of that, but I don't know if you think it's a good idea or not.
I was just gonna say because you're doing trapdoor stuff right now. Now, I have said stuff before, and I have been corrected by watching you guys and also Everything Black Powder. For example, making sure that black powder is compressed and all that, because that's what I was told when I was young. Make sure it's compressed. If you don't, short starch and bulge your barrel.
Yeah, it's
crazy stuff. And I've regurgitated it too, and then I saw what you guys are doing. I'm like, okay, you learn something new every day. And I spent
common sense will tell you that the ball the pressure's got to go somewhere, and it's not going to go out the side of a cylinder unless whatever's in front of that cylinder isn't movable. Like there's so much there. It has to build too much pressure to bust. If it's just a lead ball that's lightly seated, it is not going to blow up. It's going to push that ball out.
Mhm.
It's common just math, and yeah, it's not that crazy. But it is not smart because you get somebody who will do something differently, and then it'll blow up and kill themselves, and then everybody's going to blame you for it. So, yeah.
So going back to what you're saying too, with the trapdoors and stuff and smokeless, I don't think people quite understand sometimes the metallurgy too. It was different then than it is today. So we have harder steels today, but they rust easier than they did back then. But it was softer back then. So if you're putting hotter loads through a trapdoor, for example, they're not real strong actions. And you can jack up the pin that goes across for your door. If that door gets loose, you can have a lot of problems with that too, or just ruin your gun for what? So
Right.
If you're shooting cowboy loads or low pressures, like you're saying, with modern powders within that pressure area that's safe, I don't see a problem with that.
I mean, isn't Pyrodex technically a smokeless powder? I mean, it smokes, but it's a modern-ish powder, right?
Yeah, it's not the same. That's why they can sell it everywhere.
Yeah, that's why they don't. Yeah, because it falls under the same category as modern smokeless.
I believe it's flammable and not an explosive in their mind.
Like black powder is, because I know black powder is considered an explosive.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, we were talking about whoopsies. I went to a Civil War reenactment. I had a 42 musket, and I thought, hey, I got some Pyrodex. I'll make some cartridges. And I made those cartridges, and all you do out on the field, we don't use the rammer rods because they're projectiles. So you bite off the tail, you pour your powder in, you tap it on the ground a couple times, and you shoot. I didn't know there's rules and all that. I just fell in with the guys. Hey guys, I'm here. All right, cool. We'll check your rifle. Ping, ping. All right, you're good. Your rifle's not dirty. Let's go have some fun. But the Pyrodex, actually, it was in their gun they were letting me use. I didn't have mine. I'm sorry. It was an infield. So the infield's not working. And they're like, what is going on? So we were doing actually an evening battle, so it's really cool, sparks and stuff. And they're like, why is this thing not firing? They're playing with it and working with it. And they're like, dude, what are you using? I said, well, I got Pyrodex RS. They're like, it's against the rules. It doesn't work the same. It has to be compressed. So the black powder, you put it in there and poof, and you get some awesome, sparks and smoke and all that good stuff. But yeah, no Pyrodex.
Yep.
Can you tell us about your time as a reenactor? I have always wanted to do that. I mean, that is something I really want to do at least once.
Well, sure. So what got me started in it was close to where I used to live. There was some guys that had some artillery. They had cannons, and so they said, "You want to shoot the cannon?" Well, yeah. That's how they hook you. So you get to shoot the cannon once. They say, come on out. If you need a uniform, then we'll suit you up until you get your own gear, and you keep doing that. So it takes 8 guys to fully run a cannon. And we've run them with 4 before, and 3 even sometimes. And that's a lot of work, but it still gets done. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be able to do that. With the artillery pieces that they had 2 original 1861 ordnance rifles. They had 2 61 parrots, 2 62 parrots, and 2, I think there were 6-pounders. The 2 originals, everything else was reproduction. And then eventually I got into doing infantry because we were doing annual events and we were marching. And so I was like, if we have to march in front of a crowd just to say, like, here we are, for the artillery, I'm going to go into infantry. So I went into infantry, and that's when I started getting into the muskets and stuff and learning more about that, and had a little bit of fun with that too, because it's kind of fun to move, with a unit, and pull forward and back. And there's a really cool, it's kind of tough to find, but it's called Hart's Engineers Company E, 3rd Company E. That's the unit I was falling in with. They do have a really neat video that shows all of us on the battlefield. They have pyrotechnics and stuff, and we walking along, they pop up heat moss and all kinds of cool stuff, and it was a lot of fun. Actors go out there and stuff too. Peter Shereko from Tombstone, we've met a handful of times.
Oh wow!
C. Thomas Howell, he was out there and with his kids. What's his name? Tron. Melissa Gilbert was his wife. She was out there before. Gosh, I can't remember his name now. But Tron was out there too, and dressing up. And, yeah, a lot of people out there. It's pretty fun.
Cool.
I don't know if that's what you want to hear. I can tell you more, but you can ask and I'll answer your question.
We got a couple questions over here, but a couple statements. Everything Black Powder said, I shot smokeless 50-70 out of my 68 trapdoor last weekend. It was wimpy, but it worked well. Now, that's something I want to point out. A lot of people assume that just because this is a smokeless round, no matter how light it's going to be more powerful than the old nasty black powder. That's not true in the least. You can get pressures. Now here's the difference. You can get pressures and you can get the same FPS out of a black powder cartridge that you can not out of a Magnum smokeless load, but a standard smokeless load. It's just the arch of that pressure is different. That pressure builds as it goes down the barrel, whereas with smokeless, boom, it's all right there. So
it peaks,
70
and then it comes off.
A 70 grain black powder 50-70 will absolutely run the living daylights out of a cowboy load 50-70 or 45-70. They talk about those guns kicking in the old days with 500 grain loads and 500 grain bullets and 70 grain loads. I was reading about a guy that was bruised when he came back in from competing with the actually it was the 80 grain load. He came back in. He is bruised from his bicep all the way through his whole pectoral muscle black.
Wow.
So you can get there. You can get there with smokeless. People don't or with black powder. People don't understand that. A couple questions here. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So, real quick, have you ever tried to do it the old way at the show where they hold the stock behind their head and
Creedmoor stance?
Have you ever tried that? Any of those stances?
I've tried.
I did it as a kid,
but not actually.
with a BB gun.
Before I was doing black powder a lot, so I've tried it with cowboy loads, but I didn't see the advantage, I guess.
Okay, yeah. I was kind of curious to see what it feels like. I'll have to do it one day just to see.
Well, if you have a really long barrel sharps, I bet you it's a whole. And the whole thing is because you're using for that long range, you're using that way high, your tang sight way up high. I imagine that's what it is because it is easier to get your eye up higher in that position than whereas when you're trying to shoot like this. And I've actually seen guys put the stock under their arm to be able to attain that level of eyesight to reach out to 1,000 yards. So that might be, in my opinion, why they do the Creedmoor stance. If that answers your question, I don't know.
Yeah. And it seems to be a really stable position. I mean, you're laying on the ground. So.
This one's for you, Snapper.
Uh-oh.
AR Gun 1776 asked you guys into single action army revolvers.
Never heard of it. Actually, believe it or not, every single one behind me is a single action except for the double action right there. And those are all originals. Everything back there is original. Like there's nothing. That's the 91. That was made in 1891. This one's made in 1880. That one's from 82, and that one was made in 61 and converted sometime in the 80s. It's a 51 Navy that was converted. And then I got the double action 1877 on the top of the clock.
But Snapper doesn't like single action armies, guys.
Nope, I've never heard of them. I have a severe addiction and weakness to the single action army. Every time I find one and it's in a reasonable price, I end up about a week with bruises from the wife with a new gun.
Yeah. We got a question here from Justin G. And guys, sorry, I'm kind of just skipping through here looking for questions. I'm reading all your comments, but we're having such a good conversation here. I don't want to break it up too much. But Justin G asked, any advice on semi-smokeless rounds? And I think he's talking about the Milsurp rounds. He's not talking about like what I think. I think of semi-smokeless round. I think of a duplex. But I believe he's talking about Milsurps. You got anything on that? Because you're a Milsurp guy.
What do you mean like semi-smokeless? Like 303s or? I believe
like that there is Cordite's considered semi-smokeless, isn't it?
Oh, okay. I've reloaded 303s, 30-06. I think Cordite's kind of a trip because it's like spaghetti noodles, and it's all packed down in there somehow, especially on a bottleneck case. I don't know how they did that, but or semi anyway. I'm not quite sure how to answer that because I've messed around with 8x56R. Messed around with the there was one that I had that video on too. Darn, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I've done like 30-06 to 303. I'm going to be doing some 7.7 Jap soon, some 8 mil. So it can be done. I'm not sure the answer you're looking for, but it can be done. Most of my military stuff I try to load for anyway. They're not going to be like as hot as military stuff because I don't want to beat myself with the gun up, but it can absolutely be done.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
We talked about it last night. I built a 1918 BAR. It's an Ohio Ordnance Works receiver and semi-auto, but all the rest of the stuff's mil specs, mil stuff. It's got a 1918 Winchester barrel on it, and I've loaded 30-06 for that, and we've went out and played with it too. So, you can definitely make that stuff work.
Yep. Okay. See you later, Turkey Creek 1823. And his question actually said I was mixing smokeless and black powder. Yeah, see, I didn't understand.
Okay.
You got any duplex loads is what I would call it. So,
a buddy of mine was telling me about a guy that had gave him some black powder. He goes, "Here, try this out. This will get you out there to 1,000 yards on whatever it was he was shooting as black powder." And he was looking at it, and he fired a couple rounds. He goes, "Dang, this stuff is hot!" And he pulled it apart to look, and he realized there was IMR 4895 in there mixed with black powder.
Mm-hmm. It's not good.
People that do it, I wouldn't do it.
I don't even mix Pyrodex with black powder. But I'm just stupid like that. I don't like mixing anything together.
Some people talk about doing it just to. I guess the idea is to use less black powder, which go into my little rant here again. There would be a lot more black powder around if everybody just made their own. That's my I know not everybody can.
I don't know enough about the science of both of them enough to mix them to make it safe enough for me. So
I agree. I don't know the science too well.
I know people that mix Trail Boss and black powder and get along pretty good. There are some guys that will claim, like out of the high-end Sharps rifles, they will work that mix until it's better than straight black powder, straight Trail Boss. They will get that. They spend, a year getting that burn rate in their rifle length just right, for that twist. And I guess, but since I'm not into that, I don't know. I never saw the point really. If you got black powder, you have black powder. If you have a substitute, you have a substitute. But when you get into things like mixing a true smokeless powder with black powder, that to me, that just is asking for trouble, in my opinion.
I kind of think it depends on the type of person you are too. I think that the three of us are shooters. If it shoots out to what it's expected to shoot comfortably and safely, I'm happy with that. I've got other rifles. I've got an Ashbury and 308 that it can shoot like this at 100 yards all day long. I have a 416 Barrett. I have a 338 Lapua. I have 300 PRC. If I want to go play for long range, I'll use the modern stuff and just stick to what the science is behind those rifles. Mixing smokeless and black powder, if I only had that gun for that specific reason with people that did research on that, maybe I'd go down that route, but I'm not one of those people. So
I think if you're the kind of person who is comfortable, one, doing it, two, you actually know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, you know what to look for, you know how to do it properly. You can't be stupid when doing it. You got to really be on your game and knowing what you're doing. If you can do those things, if you know what you're doing, you could do anything. You can go make a nuclear generator in your backyard if you know what you're doing. But
why do I feel like Snapper, you could do that?
Let's just say my electricity. No, I'm the way I see it is that I hate telling people to never do something, because there are some amazing things us weird bipedal humans have done by just being crazy enough to attempt it. But you, as long as you have the intelligence, the fortitude, the background, and the knowledge, by all means, and you're safe and you feel safe doing it, and you're comfortable with the consequences that can come with it as well, by all means, I'm not going to say not do it, but I personally don't feel comfortable doing it. But if you are one of those people, by all means, man, do your thing and share your data with everybody to let people know what's possible and what is being done. But I just don't feel comfortable doing it.
I agree with Jake. Mixing Pyrodex with black powder is sacrilege.
It's called holy black for a reason, you know.
Yes. Gray Wolf said sometimes slow rifle powder was sometimes mixed to ignite larger charges of black in large cases. That could be. I'm not an expert in artillery pieces by any means.
You know, it's funny. That's backwards actually in artillery. The black powder is only there to light off the modern powder, because black powder can ignite. It's one of the few things that because it explodes, it ignites instantly. And modern powders, they burn slower. So yeah, the black powder is only there to ignite the modern stuff.
Yeah. And I only bring it up mixing the Trail Boss and there's a couple of other ones because there are guys that do Sharps rifles competition shooting out there. And I know, I'm not going to say who exactly, but I know them through forums. I know them through YouTube that swear by a true duplex load. Usually it's Trail Boss, not Pyrodex. Nobody wants to shoot Pyrodex because it's so corrosive. But usually if it's a Trail Boss and black powder, and the main theory of it is when it's in the way I understand them doing it, they're not stacking one on top of another. They're intermixing them. And don't do with this what just because I said this is my understanding. I've never tried it. And they're getting that burn rate of black powder. They're not getting a full Trail Boss burn rate, but they're getting that standard black powder up to a little bit more pressure so they can throw that big heavy slug just a little bit farther. And so, that's the way I understand it. And I might be completely wrong on that, but that's just my understanding of the situation. Yeah. Yeah, Stephen M. Mann said, before Pyrodex is evil. Yes, it will creep up on you and eat your firearms. It's Satan. No, some people like it. I don't doubt anybody. I don't hate anybody that uses it. It's one of those things I used when I was 10, 15, and then when I realized how much easier it was to clean up true black powder, I quit using it.
Yeah.
I think everybody starts out with it, and there's nothing wrong with that because it's available.
Mm-hmm.
Did you start with Pyro? You obviously said, yeah, you started with Pyrodex, didn't you?
I still have a bunch in there, to be honest with you. My dad had passed away, and so I inherited all his stuff, and yeah, I still have it. I'll be honest with you, if it's there, I'll use it. But after I talked to a buddy of mine that lives up in Montana, and he taught me how to make black powder at home first. And then I was watching you guys and like everything black powder. And I was like, ooh, there's a little bit more you could do to increase certain things. You guys took me down a darn rabbit hole that, man, I come back for all the time. Like, there it is again. But
it's all your fault, Jake.
No, thank you guys. Thank you guys for doing that, because I went out and got the 2-ton press and all that. Now, mind you, it's a Harbor Freight one, so it's leaking anyway. So I probably have like half a ton being pressed on it.
Mine too.
But it's enough to where I measured it, did all like you guys said. Can you weigh it versus newer stuff and see about the same on the scale? And I noticed that I ran it through once. Now I'm also using pine, so I made charcoal out of pine bars and stuff and crushed that all up. So my results were, I pressed it down once, and for 70 grains weight or volume, I'm sorry, I got 60 grain weight. Pressed it a second time, and I got up to 65. So I was like, it's true what you guys are saying. I don't know if I should do it a third time. I was like, it'll work just for fun. I'm not trying to shoot it 600 yards away, so not yet. Maybe when that 45 110 comes. But,
I think I'm over compressing mine, because when I lay out 40 grains of high volume, I get like 46 grains of weight. I'm putting it in a 60-ton press, and I'm pressing it so much that the die is expanding. Like a die with half-inch thick steel walls is expanding.
Pushing out.
But I mean, those pucks are hard to break.
I would like to make it like you, Snapper, but I could not imagine the time input to make those smaller pucks.
That is the problem. It does take a long time.
Yeah, and that's what I try to explain to people, and they're all like, well, when Swiss comes back, just start buying Swiss. And I have to explain to them, between 3 brothers, 2 uncles, about 8 cousins, and 6 nephews, we burned 55 pounds of powder in less than a year. And like you realize,
A lot of money
a
in
really, really, really nice trapdoor rifle right there in money.
Yep.
But,
There's a lot of things you can buy really nice with that.
And if if you're a few hundred, or if you're 100 feet per second under, it's like Jake said, so long as you're not shooting like a cartridge, put your 10 more grains in there, especially in a muzzle loader. But that brings me back to you were doing these military heritage things, and that's one of the first things I saw you do, because I'm a big fan of the Northwest Trade Gun, and the India Northwest Trade Gun isn't exactly correct, but it's pretty close, especially for the money. And you and I both did basically the same thing with our Northwest Trade Guns, but you made a video series out of it. And what would you say is your favorite military heritage gun that you have?
Ooh, either the blunderbuss or the trade gun.
Mm-hmm.
I think the trade gun's kind of clunky, but it's fun. To me, it came out real nice. We just came, like I said, we did that trip up to Montana stuff. We went to Cody Firearms Museum. They have a trade gun that's there. It looks very similar to this, except I think they had a Chiefs model that was there. So I saw the differences between the trade gun and the Chiefs model. The Chiefs model is different. It's a little fancier, I think. But it is very close to this, and it's close enough for me to enjoy it just for what it is. And what you guys did to yours too, browning it and stuff. And I have a niter pot, so I just nitered my screws, nitered the power glued the trigger and stuff, and it popped a little bit more look wise. But for shooting it, yeah, okay, it's a little slow. But if I want something fast, I got my modern stuff, and going out there and having fun with it, it's fun. It hits hard.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say is on the India made muskets, especially for military heritage, and a lot of people don't understand this, they differ from company to company, even amongst themselves. The ones from military heritage, their military firearms are like spot on, like closer than Pedersoli to originals. And we actually have a whole video on that, because Ethan compares we have an original Brown Bess, we have an original Charleville, and we have both of those guns from military heritage, and we have a Pedersoli. Turns out the Pedersoli was thicker in the wood than the India made guns. And all in all, weight and everything and measurements, the India made military guns were closer than the Pedersoli. Not the case with the civilian guns like the Northwest Trade Gun.
Okay.
There's a little bit too much wood on them. Now you could trim it down. You could do a couple other things. And Duke was the one who pointed out to me, because he, of course, always handles originals. And then he handled that, and he's like, it just feels too thick in your hand. And that was when I realized, yeah, that's their difference. They don't have a military standard like they would with the reenactors to keep up with, on their civilian guns. Still good guns, just especially when you consider they're less than half the cost.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just a little bit thicker in the wood on the civilian.
In all fairness, looking back, we're taking a handful of items, though, right? Popular items, for example. So if everybody thought, hey, guess what they used in 1876? They used Colts, single actions, and it's like, there's a lot of stuff that's out there that's unheard of, especially during the Civil War. Bacon arms, Manhattan arms. You had Holbert. Was it
Merwin and Holbert? No, that's
Merwin and Holbert.
That's it. Yeah. So all these different.
Well, that was 1880s, right? Late 70s, 80s.
Yeah, moving forward and different types of designs. There's a lot of stuff that was out there that was available that you just don't hear that's very common. So why not the trade guns too? It doesn't mean that every single one has to be like the handful that are still in existence to be able to see. Another thing too is that if you're talking a 200-year-old piece of wood, it's not going to weigh the same, because it's going to dry out some of the
That is true. That is true.
So that I learned from my dad too with the old trapdoors, that if it's a carbine stock, they're like, well, if it's heavier, it may be a newer stock that was put on an older gun, and it's not original.
That is very true, and I always think about that, because there's actually, when you do the trapdoor studies, there's I think you might have even been one of the ones that pointed me to the Frasca books. But it's not even the Frasca books. I think it's the Holmesmere books where he puts a disclaimer right in the front and actually gives you a calculation for determining how much the wood would have shrunk compared to its original. Because it's like, and it's not much, obviously, but they actually are like, yes, this is actually a thing. You will lose, maybe you'll lose 1/10 of an inch, something, over time. And so it's like that is a thing.
The wood grips on the single actions and stuff, all my 51 Navy's 1860 arms, all of them are smaller than the frame now. And, at one time they would fit perfect, but all of them are smaller than the frame.
And that's something that you look for when you're collecting, that, okay, did somebody sand the stock to go below the wood line? And sometimes it's very obvious. I'm sorry, the metal line. Sometimes it's very obvious, but then there's other times where it's like, well, is it just natural? Did it just shrink up enough to be just underneath? And how proud were they when they were new? You get some newer guns that are reproductions that are very proud past the wood. Mm-hmm. And some of them, if you get, I think even out there from Shiloh Sharps, if you want it, they'll make it nice and smooth right up against the wood line and stuff. And if that's how the gun was done, over time, it's going to shrink below that wood line just enough.
Mm-hmm.
The best way that I've noticed to tell is the gutta percha grips. They fit exactly the same as the wood grips do when they were new. The gutta percha grips always feel a tiny bit bigger, and they fit to the metal line perfectly. And all the wood grips, they're just, you really can't hardly feel it, but you kind of can. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not 100% perfect smooth, but the wood has just shrunk ever so slightly all the way around.
Yeah. Okay, so we're about to hit an hour and a half here. Throw a few more questions out if you want. We're going to get ready to wrap this up, but I have one little thing to say here. Rod's Vintage Guns put up this quote. He said the indie guns are hit and miss. And also Gray Pilgrim said he has a British military, the blunderbuss military heritage with a terrible trigger. Yes, mine has a terrible trigger too. Here's what it is with the India guns. Look at them like a kit. Like a very inexpensive kit. And a lot of people absolutely hate this. They're like, I'm paying for full price. I want a full gun. Well, you're not paying full price. You're paying for an entry-level gun. Look at it like a kit. If you don't, you're not going to have to, if you don't want to, you're not going to have to remove wood and do inletting and all this for the most part ever. But you may have to polish the insides of the lock. You may have to do a little trigger work. You may have to, like on all mine, as soon as I get them, I strip that shellac off. I hate that shellac they send on them. Look at them like a kit. As far as hit and miss go, once you got one tuned, it's just as good, if not better, than a Pedersoli. And by tuning, I mean, and if you order one, by the way, from Veteran Arms, they're mostly tuned when they come, but you're paying another $200 for that tune job. Get your frizzing hard enough. Not as hard to do as a lot of people think. You can do it with a propane torch, a little handheld propane torch. Get your frizzing hard enough. Get your springs to the right tension where everything throws and works. Save yourself $200 if that's what kind of person you are, and don't go with Veteran Arms, and you will have yourself a good gun. We have 23 military heritage guns at this point, I think, something like that. And I know that Shiloh's got, 5, 6?
I got a handful, yeah. But you guys took off, so all the ones I was like, ooh, what do you guys think? Oh, all right, it looks good too.
Well, here's the thing, and why we did military heritage was Rob, that works in military heritage. Ethan talks to him. I haven't talked to him, but Ethan knows him well. And the thing is, he may be working out a 300 gun contract with the Outlander crew, and if Ethan calls him, get your 2 guns, there. And it's like, that's good customer service. Some people complain they have had bad customer service there. We never had. And I don't know if it's because we make videos or what, but we've never had bad customer service there.
I'll tell you what.
Go ahead.
I asked for a Longland pattern, and they've been out. And so I messaged them and said, hey, I'm interested. I've been interested for a while, but you guys have been out. When next ones come in, let me know. Unfortunately, when they contacted me, I wasn't in a place to get it at that time. I was like, oh, come on. But they did make an effort to call me back. They called me back twice, and they said, hey, let us know you're on the list. And I actually let them down. So they followed through with contacting me to say, hey, if you're still interested, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to have to move on. So, again, with customer service, most of the time they'll forget you after a couple months. But on the website, keep up with the website.
Yeah, and just, if you keep up with that and just actually call them and contact seems to be our best bet. But like I said, when you get the guns, don't look at it like I just spent $600 on what should be a perfect gun. You spent $600, which is less than half of what should be a perfect gun. Okay, and I don't care who you are. Pedersoli's selling their their muzzle-loading rifles for $1,800. Pedersoli's selling their brown vest for $1,700. I mean, that's getting kind of ridiculous nowadays. And so it's like you're not getting. You're going to have to probably do a little work to it. But all in all, it'll teach you. And by the time you get that gun running the way it should, you'll know flintlocks in and out.
And if
I'd say that's the upside.
If you're uncomfortable doing it too, like you said, just pay the extra $200. It'll help you out, and you'll get something that you can have fun with, and it's less than a Pedersoli. I got nothing wrong with Pedersolis. I think they're great too. But I know people complain about these because they're clunky, they're this or that. But if you look through the history of the modern, not modern stuff, the vintage stuff, it was all handmade even then. So,
And I'll tell you this right now, and I can say this from experience because it's over there. We got videos on it. You can pull an India-made musket out of the box, and that lock will generally, out of the box, be about as fast as an original military spec musket, because I've shot both of them, and I can tell you from experience. We can talk all day. We get spoiled by Siler locks and and LNRs, and because those things are just they've machined them to perfection, and it's just some of those older locks weren't that fast. They got a big rock, they throw a lot of spark, and usually throw it clear to the front of the pan.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that too is we buy our flints where they're already pre-shaped and look real nice and everything, strike right, if you can get them that way. But there was a boat or something that sank off of, was it South Carolina, if I remember right? And they found all the flints from the time selling them. They were all different shapes. I don't know if the soldiers had to make it right for themselves at the time. Those are all those little details that kind of get hidden through time. But it makes me wonder, like, they're just funky looking rocks, and we want that nice shape so it actually strikes proper.
Upstairs, I got a bag of the Nepal cache. It was a huge cache in Nepal that these guys bought in the early 2000s. And one of the rooms they actually didn't know was there because they had like this false stone floor. They ended up finding all these lead round ball under it, and they dug all that up, and then they actually got to 4 feet of this entire room at the bottom was flints. And I bought an entire bag of the flints. Want to say it was like $30-$40. And it's kind of funny because they actually had the proper flints for the pistol that I have, and I just put them in there. And you're right, they're all kinds of different shapes. Some look pretty good. Don't get me wrong, like they look nice and squared and everything, but some don't. And matter of fact, that's what I've been using on that British Sea Service pistol I have, and they work good.
And I wonder how did they do it back then? Like, here's your chunk of rock for your day.
I've heard that I thought that they actually had companies, the people that actually made them and sold them to the military, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah.
Great Pilgrim actually got us a handful of them from the Peninsula campaign from the Napoleonic Wars originals, and he actually had some white French and some dark English or whatever it was back there. I'm not the flintlock guy. Ethan is.
Yeah, mine are all different colors. I have like this real gray.
They were actually pretty decent, and they threw really, really good spark. I don't know. A lot of people now are getting the what do they call that? Amber cut, the white one that's just cut.
Yeah,
and I suppose those are all right, but usually the ones you get, like, they're a little cheaper. They just don't throw the spark like a true
Piece
and
of
I'm not
flint.
going to get into it because I don't know exactly what I'm going to say, but a true there's a Tom Fuller napped flint from Track of the Wolf. Like, that's good. That's really good. And you just can't get that with that cut amber, I believe it's called. All right, here's a quick question here before we go. Do you think we'll ever see American-made reproduction percussion revolvers? Wouldn't that be sweet?
They have them, don't they?
I hope so.
Cool.
I hope so.
Yeah, third generation, fourth generation, if you want to pay the money.
Yeah. Well, the third gen Colts,
They're not American made. They're made in Italy. They're just finished. Apparently the second gens were made. A few of the castings were made in Italy, but they were made here in America. And they were all SAEs or US standard parts. And the third gens, though, the signature series, they're even metric. I've actually seen a couple that were English. It must have been early versions, but the later ones that I've messed with, they're just technically a U-Birdie version of the gun that has a better finish on it. That is it. And then they just put the cold stampings on it, and the cold stampings aren't even the right size. They're not the right size or font. So, yeah.
Yep.
I would kill to see Colt release like a fourth
right
gen.
as far as like the second gens go, because you are right when you're right on with that. They are American made, and I mean that second gen Walker we got is the bee's knees.
Probably a great gun.
It's really good. But yeah, if somebody would do like Kibler's doing with the flintlocks and start CNC machining out good steel, I mean, let's face it, a lot of the junk we get from even Pieta and Uberti, the metal just is not up to standard. The springs are too light. They're not. When you hold a replica from Italy and you hold an original, you're like, I can close my eyes and tell which one's which. You could hand me one in each hand and I would know which one's which because the weight is just different. The steel's different. But yeah, it would be great to see.
And the originals are actually smaller. They're smaller. Yeah. They feel smaller in your hand.
They feel more dense.
Yep. They feel a little bit kind of heavier and stiffer. Just stiffer. It's hard to explain.
He said that his flints are $6. I'll tell you something kind of funny. I went over to Caleb's the other day, and I was helping him clean up because he did most of the cleaning. I was just over there filming shorts, so I guess that's guns and stuff. And he's setting up for a new studio. We're going to have a side for, of course, our Colt and Smith & Wesson series. We're building a whole new side to do the series on a couple of other guns. And I pulled out the shelf and just piles of flint boulders or just these big old. I'm like, where did I forgot. Ethan brings those home every time he goes out to drill. He'll walk around and pick those flint boulders up, and he needs getting to where he's napping his own, and they're good as you can get if they're done right. The one thing I have against here lately, a lot of nap flints, you got to re-nap them as soon as you buy them, even at $3 or whatever they are a piece, because they're leaving a hump on them that is just insane. Have you noticed that? I don't know if it's because it didn't used to be like that. I mean, these things are almost half an inch tall sometimes or more.
I think for me, I got a bunch off of eBay just to have something. And then there was another one too. Is it Chirp? Is that the only one that you could use?
That's another one you can buy. Yeah, you can use things.
I have a bunch of those too, and you're right. There's some. Now, granted, this guy probably got them out of his yard, but I know what you're talking about having a hump on them. I haven't really bought them new, just because I got lazy. I guess the stuff that I have is enough for the moment. But it hurts it'll hurt your soul a little bit. You got a good flint, and that frism doesn't move, or the hammer doesn't move. When it comes down, it's a whap, and it shatters all over you. Like,
break your heart. And a lot of that is misalignment because they're just leaving them too thick. Even the Track of the Wolf ones here lately have just been like way thicker than they were 2 years ago. And I don't know if it's just because they they have to rush now. They're getting more orders or what. But it's kind of Hardy said he got a third gen Colt 49 pocket. Timing was garbage out of the box. Yeah, it has been here lately. It has been on everything.
I've seen so many of those third gens where the stampings, like the address Samuel Colt on the barrel, was like curved, and it went even halfway off the barrel. Blackheath's gun is that way.
Well, they're selling the box. They're not selling the gun.
Yeah, they're selling the whole idea of those third gens supposedly was we're going to sell it to people who put them in a safe and they're buying them as a, like make money on them one day. But they are just, I've seen nice ones, but the majority I see are not nice.
Yep. Okay, guys, I think we got one more question here, and then I got to go bale hay, so I'm going to have to get out of here. But actually, got to cut hay tonight. But Carl Henning asked for you, arm for you, what is the rarest mill Sharp single shot black powder? Well, that's kind of a hard question. Maybe you should go with the rarest one you own.
The rarest one that I own, single shot. Man, I got to think about that one. What I say, one of the ones that I have, I don't know how really rare it is, but so I purchased it. I took it to the reenactment. A guy fell head over heels in love with it. Showed me some information on it and stuff. It's a El Pomeroy 1842 69 caliber musket, and it's a conversion from flintlock to cap and ball. But it's a 3-landed groove, which is another thing that he was like, "Oh, this is what makes it even more special." And it's a Conan barrel. So that's the first ones where they converted it from flintlock to cap and ball. They drilled right into the barrel and they put the cone right in the top. He's 2,000 made for the government, and I don't know how true this is, but with the mini ball, when it would expand, I guess it was making back pressures and blowing the nipples out of the barrel. This one been used. I haven't used it, but it's been used. You can see there's market, where the primer has gone down. It wasn't clean for a while, and has left pop marks a little bit around the primer of the nipple. But that's what he told me. I'm guessing off the top of my head that's it. I'll probably look at my safe and be like, "Oh, I forgot about that one too."
Well, yeah. Well, the question asked stated is kind of hard because there's a lot of little trial guns that nobody.
Yeah. There's a gun that we probably don't even know exists. That's the rarest of the rarest.
The rarest one.
Go ahead.
Oh, the rarest one we have is probably we have that. I'm looking at it right now, but I'm not going to grab it. But we have the Type 1 Allen conversion, and even though they made 5,000 of them, there's debate about whether or not it's true or not. Supposedly, they cut down 311 and sent them to West Point. The debate is whether or not those were super early pre-1866s or were they super late 1865s. And a lot of people, Homsmere himself agrees that they're probably late 1865s. And the one we have actually has all the markings that it's supposed to have to be one of those 300. So that's the rarest we own. Even if it wasn't one of the 300, 5,000 is a pretty low number in United States military guns that were actually adopted. So that's pretty rare for us. Snapper, you got anything rare?
I don't own anything rare. No, I mean, I got that, not rifle wise, but pistol wise.
I was about to say you have one of the rarest Colt model of pistols. It's probably like within the top 5 rare Colt model pistols.
I got 2 guns that would be considered extremely rare for Colt. The Deflect Dragoon. I mean, they only made, well, actually, we don't even know how many they made, but it's in the hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
That Pocket Navy, there's only like 2,000 that were ever made as cap and ball that exists.
Yeah,
from that era.
Still exist.
They all were converted. So out of that 2,000, how many exist still today? Then the Griswold and Gunnison, they only made 4,000 of those. Less than 4,000. It was like just under 4,000. So pretty rare little toys.
That Griswold and Gunnison.
Me too. The other day I completely forgot about it. I was like, so I do have this thing.
Shiloh, did you know he has an original Griswold and Gunnison? I suppose you know the story on that.
No, I don't actually.
I believe, as far as I know, Snapper is the only person alive that has fired an original Griswold and Gunnison that is still living at this point. Because there's 8?
Squibload fired it too, so Squib would be the second.
That is true. But how many of them are still in firing condition according to
there's three that originals that are in firingable condition, and those 3 are in museums, like big museums, and they haven't been fired since the 1800s, most likely, because they've been in those museums since before 1900. mine was not in fireable condition when I got it, and I changed that. It wasn't too hard to actually put it into fireable condition. Because it's a brass gun. It's just like the old school brass guns. Brass is soft. And yeah, they called it frame stretching, but that's not what was happening. It actually would beat the cylinder back into the gun. And all I did was cut that out and make a new brass insert that would go in between the arbor pin and the frame. And it brought it back into spec. And it actually, a weird coincidence with that gun is that gun hits harder than any 36 I've ever fired. The same load, the same ammo out of my 51 Navy. I shoot it through that Griswold and Gunnison, and I'm telling you, that thing hits extremely hard. I can't even. I need to get a chronograph, because when you shoot it, it's like double the recoil, and it even hits harder than, like, say my Dragoon with 50 grains at 44 caliber. It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. You'll knock the entire plate over when you can shoot it all day long with a 36, and it just go ding, ding, ding. Shoot it just once with that Griswold. It's got some weird, like, Confederate magic or something.
So, yeah, Gray Wolf said Blackie claims to have owned one. Seems grumpy about getting caught out. I thought that was a original Spiller and Burr.
It was a Spiller and Burr. When he was a kid, he had a Spiller and Burr.
Yeah.
He never had a Griswold.
We were just talking about that the other day. We were just talking about that.
I can listen to Blackie tell stories all day long. He's my favorite storyteller in the world.
Yeah, we don't ever have to. Well, yeah, we need to get Blackie back on. Anyway, guys,
we could usually just sit back and shut up and let him go all day long.
Let him tell stories.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this up. So, Shiloh, what do you got coming out? You got any videos planned? Got anything coming out soon? Anything we should be watching for?
I've got stuff rattling around in my head. I've got that 11 mil stuff for the German rifles. I just loaded some stuff up. I want to test fire to make sure nothing blows up on me first. So if I'm safe, then hopefully everybody else can be safe too. I've got that going on. Trying to think of what else. There's all kinds of oddball stuff. If it seems to be challenging, I want to go in there and film it, and at least put it out there. I just not as common putting films out like you guys do. So for fun, I might do some loads with my M1. I have an M1C and an M1D just to see how truly accurate they are, at least at 100 yards. And if we can dial that in a little bit just for fun. I don't know. If you guys are interested in something, I have it, then let me know, and I'll try and pull it out and do something for you.
That'd be cool. Snapper, I know you got one cooking. It's ready to go.
Yeah, I shot the 1880 yesterday. It was yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It was either yesterday or the day before yesterday. I finally shot that thing because I'm getting ready to send it to Santee to let him play with it. And so I figured I'd shoot it, make sure it's good, that doesn't have any issues, and load up some ammo for it to send to him. Yeah. And it shot great. As a matter of fact, I was really happy with that thing. I had 0 issues. I mean, they gave me nothing. It was like shooting a brand new gun. It was great.
Yep. Gray Wolf asked Shiloh if you would put out some more rolling block content.
Sure. Yeah.
You got quite a few of those.
I got a 7 mil that I can play with. If there's something you want to see, I've got the 4570. I think I have the 5070 carbine, but my dad said that one doesn't shoot very well. Yeah. But yeah, I can do
I'd
that.
love to see the 5070 carbine.
Believe it or not, I found your channel fairly recently, Shiloh. So I'll go through and I'll just be like, I'll come up with some ideas for you if you don't mind.
Please do. Yeah, I've got a 44. I haven't done this one yet. I've got a 44 Winchester. It's not the carbine. It's the musket. The Winchester musket.
Oh yeah. The 73 musket.
All that fun stuff, and I know other people have it out already, so that was kind of like on the back burner. But I do have that.
I'd love to see that.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll have to do that.
Matter of fact, old Jake just got himself a real 73 the other day too. So I'm happy to see that. He just wanted one so bad. Jake from Everything Black Powder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You probably killed me for mentioning it already, but I'm excited just that he got one.
Way to ruin the surprise.
I know.
So if you guys tune in to 11 Bang Bang 7:30 Sunday morning, we will get a video. Might be a surprise this week because the video I had set to release even though I recorded my own song, it was a song that is over 300 years old and in the public domain. I recorded it myself. I left the song up on the channel for a year. And as soon as I put it in a video, just to make sure no copyright claim, as soon as I put it in a video, some company from Europe has claimed my tune, even though I did it myself and the tune's over 300 years old. So we're in escrow right now. So I don't know if that video is coming out or not. So it could be one of several. I may even just put a video out on the 72 open top just to make old AR American happy. Poor AR American, he doesn't quite dig flintlocks, and that's all we do. He wants to see a cowboy gun, so we might have to break out a cowboy gun or two. But anyway,
all you gotta do is make a 72 open top video. He'll be happy. That's it.
Yeah, and Benji from Mill Creek Range, actually, I was going to cast up some 45 Colts, but he actually sent me some that were already cast up, pre-lubed, and Mill Creek Range, guys, go check him out. But anyway, all right, I think I don't think we have any more questions. It looks like looks like everybody's just kind of talking back and forth. Stephen M. Mann's in there. Well, we'll see you guys all later. Everybody's done. Got anything else to say, anybody?
I'd like to say thank you guys for having me on the show. I really appreciate you guys giving me the time, and it's great to meet you both. And thanks for everybody for watching and chiming in and keeping this going. Check
him out, guys. At least on 11 Bang Bang. I don't know about the other channels, but on the 11 Bang Bang channel, it is linked right in the title of this video. Go check him out. And we are actually very grateful that you came on our channel, Snapper's channel too. That's why I got to stop and think. I'm not really the host anymore. I just do all the talking.
It's okay. No worries, man. No worries.
But anyway, as always, guys, trust in God. Keep your powder dry. Bye.